Hello and welcome to The Left Wing. Well, do not be fooled by the coffees, how we're relaxing. We're going to be back on the hamster wheel fairly soon, if we're not on it already.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Ireland returned to media duties on Thursday and the show goes on after a couple of days off. I took a couple of days off.
You had a few days off.
Yeah,
how
I did.
That?
Enjoy the sunshine and tour. It's gone now.
Bit of a cycle.
Starting to feel a bit more. Yeah, a bit of a cycle. Visited a vineyard. Went to Amboise, a lovely town. It's a beautiful part of France. It's been lovely to. I mean, I don't know why you have I do know why, but it's kind of weird having a rest week during the World Cup. It's very strange to get off the hamster wheel for a while. I think it's well timed for Ireland, especially having beaten South Africa, to be able to decompress and then build back up to the Scotland game. It's very unusual for a tournament. I think teams have found themselves a little bit at a loose end, kind of going, we're here for a World Cup, and yet here we are off kind of exploring Paris for a couple of days, or going to Disneyland as some of the players did. But it was very nice. I think it's given us all a chance to replenish. Hopefully the podcast will be boosted by it, by the fact that we've all had a bit of time to think and kind of decompress a little bit. But it's
do you know what delights I'm looking forward to that
is going
to face me in the next, doing my laundry.
Yeah, getting your haircut.
That is getting my hair
trying to find
cut.
a barber or a hairdresser who speaks English.
So I think we're going to have to do it here.
The podcast could get very interesting after we all get our haircuts in France. If things go wrong, if we malfunctions, we could end up like, I don't know if you saw Samoa last night. They're a scrum half and a bleach blonde mohawk. So I wonder will Keane turn up in that after his couple of days off. Let's see. But yeah, the laundry's important. These are the boring things that kind of get on top of you. I'm going to have to do
this in my hotel bathroom. I won't go to laundry. I'm just going to have to wash it myself.
Oh, fair enough.
Even my hotel bedroom is like a clothes horse at the moment. I've got the clothes hanging up all over the place, on the windows. These are the things.
And we have less than a week in our lovely basin tour. We're going to Paris for however long Ireland, well, I'm here till the final anyway, but however long Ireland are here, we'll be here. And Ireland ship out for Paris on Thursday, and there's no coming back, which is really unfortunate. I think they're talking to the players today. They're sad about it. I think it's going to be a real wrench for them. They love it here. And when they go to Paris, they're going to be staying miles out. The city's just busier. Tour has suited them down to the ground. It suited us down to the ground. It's been a great place to be. So that's going to be a big change. Yeah,
definitely. The proximity to everything, where they're going to be based next week, is going to be a good bit outside.
The regular trams, as we can hear from our podcast, as we always try and record quite somewhere handy.
No, yeah. But we were just at the Ireland press conference there earlier as well. And Robbie Henshaw was there. I don't know if this is a sign that he could possibly start.
I think in normal weeks you can read a lot into the fact when a player's put up for media, they're generally involved. And look, I think Henshaw will be involved, but I do think because of World Cup there's such a demand on media appearances that there's
every player has to play their part.
So I wouldn't read too much into it. Like Keith Earls did media the week of the Tonga game and didn't play. I think everyone was quite surprised by that. I think if it was a more junior player you'd be quite taken aback by it, but he was able to handle that. He is playing a role. He's been probably the most prominent water boy himself. And who was the Willie LaRue were running the water in the South Africa game. Two very experienced heads. South Africa had Dwayne Vermeulen up in the coach's box. The things you pick up when you're watching the game back. But I think Henshaw will be involved. There is a case for playing him. There's also a case for just going with the same team again, because this game, I think in the euphoria, I think when I was last talking to you, obviously we've talked since, but on the podcast on Saturday night, we all thought Ireland were pretty much 1 foot in the quarterfinals. And it was understandable. I think Scotland were dead on 0 points. By the time we record again on Monday, Scotland should be on 10 points. Things should be much tighter, and the permutations will start kicking in. Ireland have to get a result on Saturday week, and I have a feeling Andy Farrell will just go again. And he may look at Conor Murray. I think he's playing really well. I think he's playing better than Gibson Park. He may look at freshen up the midfield, bringing in Robbie Henshaw, but midfield is Scotland's area of greatest strength with Hugh Jones and Tua Piloto there. So there is a case to be made for change. There's also a case to be made for just going, we've had 2 weeks off. Why would we change anything? Let's just go again. Dan Sheehan's another one who could come into the mix just to get him a start under his belt. And Jack Conan is fit again.
Yeah, and we spoke to Robbie Henshaw today. So here's what he had to say about the South Africa game and also the form of Bundee Aki.
I suppose being mentally on it, making sure you're just ready to go. I think that's the key, and making sure you just hit the ground running. Don't have any second thoughts or doubts about anything. And then just offer as much energy as you can, give that kind of positive impact and that energy and communication, and let the lads know you're there. He's been brilliant, I suppose his body's in great shape. He's flying fit, and he's had a great pre-season, as has Gary. So the lads are flying it. Their performances have been consistent and have been rock solid, and Bundy's been flying in terms of getting tries on the board. So he's been letting us know that he's near the top try scorers list, which we've been having a laugh about. But yeah, no, listen, they've been outstanding, and for me is just whenever I get a chance to come in, is make sure I put my best foot forward, and whenever I come off the bench, making sure that I put in a good performance.
He had some nice things to say about Bundy there, but also he's a competitive guy. Must be hard to see Bundy in such fantastic form
Absolutely.
as well.
Like, I think, they obviously go way back. They played, they won a league together at Connacht. Gary Ringrose, who's also keeping him out of the team, is a teammate and a friend from Leinster, but he is a competitive animal. I guess with Bundy, if you remember the time that someone stole his laptop and Bundy went hunting for whoever it was, there's a fairly deep bond between them. So I'm sure he's happy for him, but I think he wants to play a big role. But the way the game unfolded on Saturday, last Saturday, Robbie Henshaw played a big role off the bench, and I think he knows he's mature enough. He's 10 years international. I remember being at his debut in Texas when he was a 19-year-old, one of 4 teenagers to play for Ireland 10 years ago. He's a decade in international. He's had times when he started, he's had times where he's been on the bench, he's had times at fullback, he's played at centre as well. He, I think, appreciates that he has a role to play, and what impressed me the most about last weekend was the fact he came in, within seconds was playing a big major role, came off, and then came on for the last 20 minutes and played a big major role again. Didn't have to get up to speed, was able to hit the ground running. He's an incredible athlete in his own right, an incredible player. We don't want to wish injury on anyone or kind of tempt fate, but I think he could have a big role to play for Ireland in this World Cup, just like Jack Conan. This World Cup is going to be, they hope to be here for 4 more games. They have the capacity to be here for 4 more games. And if they do, they will eventually come down with some sort of injuries. It's been amazing so far that they have all 33 players training across the road at Stade de la Chambéry. They will pick up something along the way, and someone we don't appreciate right now. Maybe it's Stuart McCluskey, who went home for the birth of his child on Monday or Tuesday, who hasn't kicked the ball yet, or Jimmy O'Brien, whose flexibility could become crucial. There will be someone who steps up at this World Cup.
Yeah, and we spoke with Jack Conan yesterday. So he kind of told us for the first time, what happened exactly to his foot. So he tore ligaments in that warm-up game against Italy on the 5th of August. He then suffered a setback. He got bruising in his bone, which kind of set back his recovery. So he feared that his World Cup could be over. So here's Jack talking yesterday.
It's been very frustrating. I was doing very well before I arrived back over here, and then I hit a bit of a roadblock and then pushed me back a few weeks. So, I'm incredibly grateful for the patience of the coaching staff to stick with me and give me the time to get better. 3 or 4 weeks ago, I thought I was going home, but it's been able to turn around with the work of all the physios and the doc and stuff, and they've done an incredible amount of work with me the last few weeks, and I'm unbelievably grateful for them. So finally training away and feeling good, and just ready to add my bit of value that I can and contribute to the lads who've gone unbelievably well the last few weeks. And it's obviously always a bit strange when you're just watching on from the distance when the lads are in the pitch and I'm flogging myself in the rower or in the gym. So it's great to be back.
Jack, he's a great talker, isn't he? A great person to interview.
I mean, it's great for Ireland that he's back, and he probably will come into the 23, possibly at Ryan Baird's expense next weekend. We'll see, but it's great for us as well because he is one of the most engaging guys. He walks into the room. I think he likes doing it. He's very comfortable doing it, and it comes across. And like some people don't like doing it, it's fair enough. But when you're talking to them every couple of days, like we're getting, the players who play every week, because there's not many changes, we're talking to them a lot, and obviously we're trying to feed that back to the public as well. And he is one of the people who take it seriously and is very good at doing it, and gave a very good explanation. At one point, he even looked at the media officer going, should I say this? It's like, well, it's your own medical information. I mean, Jack Conan's journey, he was ruled out 4 years ago with a foot injury. He spoke about the deja vu feeling that he had. The fact that last year he had for a while, undiagnosed medical condition that was holding his performances back, and he managed to play through that. But you could see we were all wondering what was wrong with Jack Conan. He got to the bottom of it, got it fixed, and now he was feeling top of the world again. Played his way back into the squad, had a really good chance of playing big roles in those big games, and had to kick his heels. And we saw, the footage showed he had the t-shirt over his face midway through that second half on Saturday night.
As he said, it's harder to watch
it's
them
so
playing.
hard for them, and he's a 3-test lion. He's gone toe to toe with those Springboks before. He would feel, I think, Caelan Doris. I have an interview with Jerome Kino in tomorrow's paper where he says that Bundy Aki and Caelan Doris are two of the top 4 players in the world right now. Doris is a phenomenon, but Ireland are willing sometimes to shift him to 6 to accommodate Jack Conan because he's so good. What a player to bring in midway through a World Cup. What a player when you're trying to go, okay, how do we refresh things going into a big game against Scotland and ensure there's no complacency? Well, you bring back the Lions number 8 into training and you go to Caelan Doris. Well, you've got to be better than him. You go to Peter O'Mahony. Hang on, you've been brilliant so far, but look who's back. You go to Ryan Baird on the bench, who had a big role, a big cameo off the bench last weekend and played well and probably doesn't deserve to lose his place, but you go to Ryan Baird, you were good, but this guy's done it for 4 or 5 years consistently. You've got to be better than him.
Yeah.
That is really the key to not taking anything for granted.
Yeah, and I suppose his standing is shown by the fact that the coach is stuck with him and they waited for him. They waited for his his recovery to come through, and that says a lot about how what the coaches think about him as well.
Yeah, and it was tough on Keane Prendergast and Gavin Coombs, and he spoke about the fact that both of those players had really good pre-seasons, but there is, I think Andy Farrell has great faith in lads who've done it for him before and have been internationals, and I think his life as a professional has endeared him towards the players who pitch up week on week consistently and perform week on week consistently and perform across 80 minutes consistently. And it's very hard to prove it to him, but he has backed some players, and others he's gone, you're not doing it for me every training session. And there's obviously something that sets Caelan Doris apart from a Gavin Coombs, not to single out one individual, but there are players who we've seen at URC level and gone, God, that guy could do a job for Ireland. But Andy Farrell's looked at him and gone, no. And he's generally been proven right with them. It's harsh. It's hard for some of those players, but Conan's clearly one that he felt was worth the risk. And, that bone bruising could have, if it was a player of lesser standing, they would have sent them home and got someone else out. It's interesting. I think we talked about it around with the other journalists today. Cian Healy's back, and he's putting up videos on Instagram that will be making Dave
his
Kilcoyne
power
and
of
Jeremy
recovery,
Loughlin look a little bit nervous. So could he have a role to play? Well, the time frame's the same as Jack Conan. I don't think they'll do anything unless someone gets injured. I don't need to call him up. But what a weapon to have if you lose a loose head, to be able to call someone of Cian Healy's standing up, and what a professional the guy is to be able to work his way back after the heartbreak of what he went through. So it's good for Ireland to know that he's back. I think Leinster play a friendly against Cast at some stage in the next 2 weeks. Maybe he plays there. And it's a nice to have because he can play both sides of the scrum. So if a tight head goes down, you might bring Cian Healy down. Maybe you'll do what South Africa do. If someone goes down next weekend and you've got cover in that area, maybe you bring him over just to have him in the squad. It's just another little string to Ireland's bow that they Healy knows the system. He was playing up until that game in Biarritz. He's plenty of pre-season under his belt. So it's another one that as other teams are losing players, Ireland are getting them back until next Saturday, or something goes wrong next. It can't keep going right forever.
Yeah, no, definitely luck is on the side with the injuries at the moment. This week's games, where you watched Japan against Samoa last night, and this game, is going to go down. Japan's feature go down to their pool game against Argentina the weekend after next.
Yeah, it's a kind of a strange week. They front loaded the fixtures, and there was a bumper opening weekend, and then second weekend wasn't great, and then the third weekend was exceptional. And Ireland, South Africa was the high point of that, but obviously Wales, Australia as well. And we've another fairly busy weekend this weekend. I think New Zealand, Italy tonight is a fascinating fixture. Last night was a really key fixture for both teams, and it told us a lot about where those teams are and how under-resourced the tier 2 nations are. And what about that? Samoa have really good players, and they have players littered, they're nearly their entire starting 15 in matchday 23 play professional rugby in good leagues. They are top quality players. Some of them are former All Blacks who are probably on the other side of being at their best. But when they played, I was really impressed with them. I kind of fell in love with them a little bit when they played Ireland in Biarritz or in Bayonne. I thought they really put it up Ireland that night, caused them all sorts of problems, and nearly very came close to a historic win over Ireland. It was the second game they'd had against a tier 1 team during this entire World Cup cycle. Now, the PNC that they play in on a regular basis against Tonga, Fiji, and Japan is a decent competition because Japan are a good team. Not as good as they were, but they're still good enough to beat Samoa last night. They're probably going to test Argentina on Saturday week in what is a pool, not a pool decider. England will go through, but that will be the second game. But I was struck when we were preparing for Ireland against Tonga that Tonga have only ever played Ireland twice in their history before this World Cup. They've never played a game at Lansdowne Road. I think that's a disgrace.
That's not right.
I think that's on the IRFU, that's on the RFU, it's on all the established unions who kind of look after their own, they look after their own house very, very well. And they make sure that all the games they bring in It's on supporters who need to buy tickets for these games, but the RFU need to, and all the unions, I think, have an onus to try and grow the game. It's very hard for any of these teams in between World Cups to improve. Say Portugal or Uruguay, who've played above themselves this World Cup. Uruguay were brilliant the other night against Namibia and the way they fought back. Namibia nearly took them down. How are they going to improve when we bring in a new tournament that doesn't give them any windows of opportunity? Yes, Japan and Georgia will be part of this new World Series we're going to get. But what about the rest of them? There's going to be really hard to get promoted. The Lions is a big blockage. Now the Lions are going to Australia, who are becoming a Tier 2 nation, but will still have the voting rights. There's a lot to this. And it's the kind of thing we talk about at World Cups, or talk about when we're playing against Italy at the Six Nations, because Italy have traditionally, they could beat the All Blacks tonight, and that would be a big story. But, they blocked Georgia's path into a Six Nations. The Six Nations is a closed shop. The Rugby Championship is a closed shop. One of the wonders of this World Cup has been games like last night's game. I really enjoyed it. Samoa nearly came back at the end, despite all, being down to 14 men when Ben Lamb came up, got sent off, and they line out at the end. If they won it, but they threw it away, would the extra games have just brought them on so their line-out functions better, so that their set piece, all their cohesion, all the things that Ireland are so good at can function better. The Portugal against, who was it last week? Portugal's draw against Georgia was a phenomenal game of rugby. These teams can play. They just need opportunities to get better. And it's up to the established nations like Ireland, who are patting themselves on the back for their wonderful system, to not run a closed shop, to open it up so that these games are more regular. And like, it's hard because the jersey went bust the other day. The finances of the game are not strong beneath the top level in the club game, so it's hard to try and open it up to other countries. But how will the sport ever go if it's a closed shop? So look, I'm rambling on a little bit, but I think it's the kind of thing that we beat the drum every 4 years. It's kind of on us. It's on, as a media. It's on the RFU. It's on the established unions to open the doors, to give these teams opportunities, because the game is better for them. They bring so much to it.
Yeah, we'll see how Portugal go against Australia as well. What about tonight's game, New Zealand against Italy? Do you think there could be...
I don't think it will happen.
Yeah.
I think Italy have the capacity to test any team. Like, they gave Ireland arguably their hardest game of the Six Nations. Ireland didn't perform particularly well that day, but Italy's attack gives them a real chance. They've got one of the game's stars in Capozzo. They have a very good pack. And the All Blacks are not the force that they were. They've lost historic firsts under Ian Foster to beat the band, series to Ireland. They've lost to Argentina. They've a record defeat against South Africa in London. They're not the team that they used to be, but they've got probably their strongest 23 on paper on the pitch tonight. Players coming back from injury at just the right time, a bit like Ireland. They've got Joe Schmidt in their corner. He knows Kieran Crowley well. I remember Ireland played Canada in that tour in 2013. Crowley was the coach. Joe went rather than come for a drink with the media, he went for a drink with Kieran Crowley instead. On that tour, they know each other well. Kieran Crowley's a great coach. He's getting shipped out of Italy very unfairly.
Yeah, not a good decision, I don't think.
No, not at all. So this is Italy's chance, and I think they're more targeting France, which is obviously a very difficult fixture for them. But they know France well, and they gave France a good game at the Six Nations.
Yeah.
They're dangerous. I don't think they'll beat them, but they could do some damage. And if they get a start on, how firm is the confidence of this All Blacks team? I mean, they do the haka, they wear the jerseys, they've got the brand, but they're not the team they used to be. They're still very dangerous as well, and I think they will fancy a quarterfinal against Ireland if that comes to pass. But I think it'll be a good game. It's probably the game of the weekend, actually. Even any chance you get to see the All Blacks is worth watching. But I think Italy will test them.
So you've got an interview with Jerome Connon coming up in tomorrow.
Yeah, well,
do you want to give us a...
Yeah, I spoke to Jerome on the phone this morning. He's in Limerick preparing for the Barbarians Munster game at Thomond Park. I've been trying to get him interview him for years. I think he's one of the best players of all time. He's a player I love watching and massive respect for, and he's gone into coaching now, so I talked to him a little bit about that. He was saying Josh Brennan's playing in the game and Trevor's on his way. I know you've an interview with him, and he was saying that he's going to turn his phone off tonight because he wants to be fresh for the game, because he's a bit worried. He's a regular in Trevor's bar in Toulouse where he's coaching now. He said he wasn't going to go into coaching, and then pandemic happened. His wife and family wanted to stay in Toulouse, so he said he'd give it a go, and he absolutely loves it, and he'd be open to working in the Irish system at some stage. So lots in it. Big friends of Bundy Aki, a 2-time World Cup winner, so he's kind of knows the ropes when it comes to getting through the knockout stages. So a bit about the Barbarians and Virimi Vakatawa's return. They're playing at Thomond. If you're in Limerick, that's going to be a great game. I know the World Cup's the full focus, but on a down weekend, I think that's going to be a cracker. Vakatawa coming back, having retired with a heart condition, he should be starring at this World Cup, and now he's making his way back, and he's just signed a contract with Bristol. That's a great story. And yeah, I enjoyed talking to Jerome Kino. He was great.
Yeah. So, and as you mentioned there, I'll have an interview as well with Trevor Brennan in tomorrow's newspaper. So, calm before the storm it feels this weekend. Nice chilled out weekend. Rory, what's your plans?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a night in a place called Losh, a couple of kilometres down the road, but we have the media's ongoing. The train is back. Yeah. As a motorbike very loudly starts up in the background. It's almost a metaphor for us needing to get on the move. But it's the calm before the storm. But I think next week is a very tricky week for Ireland. I think the down week came at the right time, because if they were rolling straight into Scotland, there is the danger that they were on too much of a high. I think Andy Farrell has had a chance. All the players have talked about what they need to get right, what went wrong against South Africa, and what they can improve on. And when you're looking to improve after beating the world champions in an epic match at Stade de France, you're in a good place. Scotland are not as good as Ireland, but they have the capacity to beat them if Ireland get it wrong and they get it right. And look, you're a red card away from things going wrong. And we'll maybe have a whole edition to talk about the permutations next week, because they are a little bit complex, but there is a very clear path out of this tournament for Ireland if they don't get it right next week. And that would be some come down after what happened last Saturday night.
Sure would. And actually there's a podcast as well with Trevor Brennan that will be out on tomorrow's feed, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks for listening and watching.